So what we have here is the passenger section. I know it's a little faint, so I'm going to hover over with my mouse. I have these different shapes here that I drew. I drew the circle and the square. We did the square first because we thought, oh, that's the easiest one. Then we did the circle, and then we did the star next. I'm going to go into my sketch that has the shapes, okay? So when we did the square, that one we had to dimension its location, not just its size, but also its location, so I have how far it is from each edge. But then the circle was a little bit easier because I said, oh, we can line the center of the circle up with the center of this square. And we're doing the same thing for the star. We line the center of the star with the center of this circle, all right? And then when we drew the star, the way we did it is we drew a pentagon. So that blocks all 5 sides to be the same size. And then we drew a circle around it, and I connected these lines from the pentagon to the circle. And that was how I was able to draw effectively the points of the star. The circle, combined with some equal constraints, makes it very easy to have all of these points be 100% the same. I alluded to this last time, but what I want to do now is I want to make some of this stuff what I'm going to refer to as a construction line. If you look closely, when we drew this pentagon, we used the inscribe polygon tool. And when you do that, okay, it draws the circle for you, all right? And the circle, you may notice, is dashed. Do we see that? Yeah, we see that? That's what's referred to as a construction line. Construction lines are used to help you construct the things you actually care about. You don't actually care about them. I don't actually want a circle here. It's just that that circle helped draw the pentagon. Well, it's the same thing with this circle I manually drew. I don't actually want that circle there. I drew that circle to help me draw the thing I actually want. The thing I actually want is what we refer to as an object. And so it's drawn with these solid lines, which we refer to as object lines. So we have 2 types of lines, construction lines and object lines. What types of lines do we have?
Construction lines, not object lines.
Very, very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this circle a construction line. The ability to do that is right here. It's right next to the fillet button. If you hover over it, it says construction. So if you click on that, then you can click on things to make them construction. Actually, I think you might have to select the item first. So that circle is orange, and then I click on the construction button and notice that it makes it dashed. What else do you think I might want to make a dash?
Pentagon.
The pentagon. So I'm going to select the pentagon. I'm going to click on all 5 sides. And once I have all 5 sides selected, then I'm going to click on the construction button again. Now, why does this matter? Well, when I go to extrude this later, you don't need to do this right now, just watch. When I go to extrude this later, notice that with 1 click, I'm able to select a star. If I had left that circle and that pentagon as solid object lines, I would have to go click on each individual region. It would be a pain in the butt. The construction lines are ignored when it comes to, oh, what are you trying to select for features? So this is why construction lines are really helpful. It was 1 click to select that star because only the perimeter of the star was object lines and everything else was a construction line. Okay, we did that. The next thing we have is the triangle. So I'm going to use the inscribe polygon. And I am going to You can do an auto constraint if you want, or you can just apply it manually. I want the center of the triangle to line up with the center of the star. So I have a triangle. I use the polygon tool for this. You're going to want to make sure that the center of this triangle lines up with the center of the star. So I'm going to do a horizontal constraint. Center of the star, center of the triangle. We're in good shape. I'm then going to do a vertical constraint to make this edge go perfectly straight up and down. Now, I'm going to use the calipers, and I'm going to make a measurement on the triangle person rather than try to measure the stuff of that hole. So I'm measuring that, which we might call the altitude of the triangle. It's the height. It's not the length of one side. Okay, it's not the length of one side. It's more like the height. And I'm getting something of like 14.1. So watch what I do here to measure the height. I'm going to click on this edge, and then I'm going to click on this corner, this vertex. And now it dimensions the distance between the two, and that's 14.1. I can move that triangle over. Now don't fall for the trap. The center of this triangle does line up with the center of this star. It does not line up with the center of this square. To prove this, look at the triangle. Is the triangle symmetrical about this point? Well, the left versus the right is not symmetrical. So there's more material to the right, or rather the material goes further out. Okay? So it's not symmetrical left versus right about this center. It is symmetrical top versus bottom, but not left versus right. So it doesn't make sense to line up this center with this center of the square. That's not going to make any sense. I'm going to have to dimension the distance the triangle is to the edge of the shape. So I'm going to dimension that distance right there. And I'm going to have to ballpark it a little bit using the calipers.
Yes,
And I'm going to go with 5. I don't actually know if that's right, but I'm going to go with 5. It seems close to 5. And that's how far the point of the triangle is from this edge here. Do we have any questions?
No.
Everything should be black. There should not be any blue lines. Everything should be fully constrained.
Oh my god, how did you do that? What do we do if we have blue lines?
Yeah.
65 yards
On
on
the
crazy.
pentagon.
Star.
Yeah, the one stars.
I want to click the green check mark. I'm done with this sketch.
Hey, good catch.
What if we have blue lines on the star?
Huh?
Blue lines on the star.
Then not everything is fully constrained or dimensioned. You messed up somewhere, you didn't finish it.
I'm looking at the star.
One thing you can try and do is click on things that are blue and see how they move around. But if you need me to look at it, you can bring it over here and I'll look at it. You probably don't need me to figure this out. The next thing we'll do is just cut these. I'm going to rename this shapes. Any questions?
You do through all.
Up to.
Yeah, that's fine. Now, if you really look at that plastic piece, you can tell that's hollow. If you flip this over, it's like a shell, hollow underneath. You can kind of already see that because there's like gaps in it, in the corners of each of the four shapes. So once you have it made, if you would like to shell it, you can. Here's the shell feature. It says faces to remove. You just click on the bottom. Now, how thin should you make the wall? So if you go too thin, if you go really thin, it works. If you go thick, it works. There's a certain range of thicknesses that do not work. For example, here is 0.5. You can see that the star is touching and the triangle is touching. If I go to 1, it doesn't work. If I go to 1.5, suddenly we're back in business. So it has to do with the fact that some of these shapes are really close to the edge, and you're trying to have a wall around the shape, and you're trying to have a wall along the edge of the overall structure, and those sometimes are conflicting when you try to shell them. I'm going to lean on the side of thinner, so I went with 0.5, which is half a millimeter. But the bottom looks kind of like that. And now I'll just rename this shell. Do we have questions?
No.
Okay. I am going to now do some random stuff. I'm going to go make another piece. And I'm going to call this piece the front section. I'm going to show you some different things that you can do that you may or may not like. These are just to give you some options, but what you're going to do kind of on your own is you're going to make the other two wooden sections of your car. And exactly how you do that, I'm going to leave up to you. I'm going to show you some things that may be of interest to you. All right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw this profile. I'm going to ballpark it. I'm trying to show you some different things, and you pick and choose what you like. Okay? But maybe I'm going to try to do the front of this. So I'm going to draw the side profile. So how do I do that? Well, I make a sketch on the plane. I'm going to make it on the front plane. So maybe I have side, and maybe I have the bottom. Okay? There are some curves to this, though, and not fillets. They're not fillets. They're just parts of curves. So we haven't really done much with this, so I'm going to go over it now. Right here, next to the circle, we have arcs. We have center point arcs, 3-point arcs, tangent arcs, all these types of arcs. I'm going to do a 3-point arc. Arc is part of a circle. So the 3-point arc, you place the 2 endpoints. That was the first, second click, and the third click sort of controls how much of a circle this actually represents. So maybe I want to do an arc that goes from, say, here to there, and that kind of gives me part of my curvature. And maybe I want to do another arc that goes from there to there. Maybe that's the shape that I want. Maybe. Maybe I want a different shape. Something like that. One constraint we haven't really looked into is the tangent constraint. The tangent constraint, amongst other things, can be used to get 2 curves to flow into each other smoothly. So I'm going to click on this joint here and really mess this up so I can prove this point. If you look at this, that's clearly a cusp. Do we see how they don't, it's not a smooth transition. It's continuous. It's not like there's a gap there, but do we see the corner, the cusp? We see that. If you don't like that, you can use the tangent constraint. If I make these 2 lines tangent to each other, so I got the tangent constraint right here. If I make these 2 tangent to each other, they join smoothly. It smoothly transitions from one to the next. And so I can create the front of the vehicle doing that. Now let's say that I want to extrude this some. So I have what's shaping up to be maybe the front of the car. Let's just say it's what I want the front to look like. So I got the profile correct, but I got to have this overall rounded corner shape thing. So how do I do that? Well, I could use fillets. You can fill it. So I use fillets, and I've now rounded my corners. Now that may or may not work out, but it's a start. It's a start. Now, how might I do the headlights? Well, I could extrude holes into my body. What I could do is I can use the plane feature right here. And I can click on this plane, and it makes a plane that's offset. And then what I can do is I can draw on this plane. So see what plane I actually have selected. I could sketch on that plane. So maybe I draw a circle right about there. Then I can choose to cut into the material. And I've created what looks like almost like basically a little hole. So I did an extrusion there. And so that's kind of the beginning of a headlight. You can see what the headlights look on there. And if I want to round the bottom of the hole, I can just do a fillet again. I would recommend, before you move further, that you know the dimension of this hole. And that way when you extrude or change or do whatever it is you're going to do, in this case, maybe I want to fill at the bottom. I know to put half of the number that was the width of the overall hole. So the width of the overall hole I set at 10. So if I have a fillet radius of 5, I now was able to round the bottom of that perfectly. So that's a way to get those headlight holes. I'm going to let you all work on this. Maybe tomorrow or Monday, I will kind of just show what I would do and how I make mine. But I would actually challenge you to use what you already know and try and make the front piece and back piece for your car. Now, maybe you are not going to be able to make it exactly the way it is, and that's fine. Or maybe you don't want to make it that way. You want to make it look a little different. I'm going to let you cook. Okay, I'm going to let you cook. I think I've shown you enough, though, to get you a starting point. All right? So I'm going to stop the stream.